Wow. Wow. That was a very interesting and awesome ending. I begin as always in the matchless name of Jesus. This video is going to be my review of Arrow Season 3, Episode 15, Nanda Parbat. I gotta say, this was a bit of a game changing episode. So, this episode opens up with Al-Ghul bathing in what seems to be the Lazarus pits when all of a sudden his daughter Nyssa comes in and says that Oliver Queen's still alive. He is trying to Oliver Queen's still alive. Number one, he is that Sarah's killer has not been brought to justice, and so he's told to. And so we got to the opening credit, go to the opening title sequence, and then we go back, and then we see Oliver and Thea training along with Malcolm and with him via swords, and then we see him saying, y'all need to go and sleep in the foundry." And they said, Oliver says, we're gonna sleep at the loft, and Sarah and Felicity says we can't, and and Thea agrees with him that they're gonna sleep in the lofts, and then she's like, "You guys share your mom's stubbornness." Malcolm's like, so, anyways, and then Diggle comes in and just like says to Malcolm, "I don't think we can. You shouldn't even be here." And then he's like to Oliver, "You need to get some sleep." And in the meantime, she goes to Thea and Roy have a little chit chat and talking about how Roy just shares how he just found out that he killed somebody under the influence of Mirakuru, and then they're like, and then they basically bond over that. He knows what it's like, and he says that he wished that nobody ever told him, when she's wondering why nobody ever told her, and then that in the meantime, Laurel comes in, talks to him, and then Thea, before you know it, goes to Laurel and tells her that she killed Sarah under the influence of Malcolm Merlyn. Malcolm Merlyn's little Vultura, or the brainwashing thing. So, and then she's like, thankfully, Laurel took it better than I thought she would. So, and then we go to, and then she says, then Thea does something that it causes League of Assassins people to come to Starlight City. But before that, Sarah comes dressed up in her Black Canary garb and tries to attack him, and then she loses badly. Like, did this woman think that she was going to take on Malcolm Merlyn and win? So, anyway, the League of Assassins show up before you know it, along with Nyssa, and they knock her out, and then they knock him out, and then they go along with them. And then in the meantime, and then before that, I think that Laurel just confronts Oliver in the lair, and just informs him that Thea told her, and she's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" Because and then Oliver's like to Laurel because with Simon, he refers to what happened with Simon LaCroix, and other things that was the reason why he didn't tell her. So, and I gotta kind of agree with him. So, anyways, back to that. They have Oliver tries to go get Malcolm, rescue him, and then before you know it, he and Malcolm have he and Nyssa have a tussle, which ends in her being bound in his arrows, one of his trick arrows, and he tries to stop the League from taking Malcolm, but he fails. And so they have her imprisoned within a cage, and then he has everybody else leave, and then he asks her where Nanda Parbat is. She gives him where it is, basically somewhere in like in India under Hindu god like Ramakrishna, which by the way is some sort of DC like goddess from DC Comics. So, anyways, Oliver's going to go get Malcolm, which everybody else in Team Arrow finds insane, but nobody's persuading him otherwise. So I need to just before that I need to pause and get all the Felicity scenes out. Felicity goes back to Ray Palmer, just tells him to go get a shower and stuff because she's not helping him, and then he does. They have a little chit chat after she sees him shirtless, and we got some of the old Felicity back, her adorableness, stuff like that. By the way, I like this Felicity more. Not this season's Felicity, who is always being snide towards Oliver, being insensitive, callous and insensitive towards him. I don't really like that Felicity. And at the end, when they're sleeping together, Ray gets out of his seat. Ray gets out of the bed. He does some work on the computer, and before you know it, we see him in his atom armor and flying all over the world. It's kind of like he's this TV show's version of Iron Man, of Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, which is really cool. Anyways, and then we see Oliver is packing up to leave for Nanda Parbat, and at the urging of his fiancée, Lila Michaels, Diggle decides to come with them. Before you know it, they are there at at the outside of the entrance of Nanda Parbat. They have a facing of the League of Assassins. Assassins are trying to confront them, and before you know it, they are going to try and stop. And before you know it, they get in. There's a lot of cool action scenes. But before you know it, they get to find Malcolm, who, by the way, when he is faced by Al-Ghul, he just says he's going to kill. He's just gonna make his death slow, and then while there's a little chit-chatting between Sarah and there's a chit-chat between Sarah and no wait, not Sarah, but there's a little chat scenes between Nyssa and Laurel, and they're pretty cool. And then there's a chit-chat also between Laurel, another chit-chat between Thea and Roy, and how Roy is just visiting the family that is of the cop that he killed last season, and then he's also, and this like Thea's just confused, like she doesn't know who she is anymore, and so she goes to Nyssa. She tells her that she was brainwashed. She killed Sarah, and then she gives her the sword to kill her. And then while Oliver and Diggle are locked up, and they have a chit chat. And then Diggle asks Oliver to be his best man at his wedding. Meanwhile, Maseo comes in and says that Al-Ghul wants to see him. I'll get to the flashbacks in a minute, and then And in the end, Al-Ghul asks Oliver Queen to be his heir. Wow. I did not completely see that coming. Well, I did see it thanks to other people, but I didn't think that we were going to go that route. So, wow. So, it's kind of like Batman. It's like, in the comic books, Batman is asked by Ra's al Ghul to be his heir. So, it's like, wow. I still didn't see that coming anything less. So, this is good stuff. Okay, now on to the flashbacks. And Oliver and the Yamashiro family are walking towards a plane. They're heading on. Oliver is planning on going back home to Starling City, whereas the Yamashiro family is planning on going back to Japan. And it seems like, by the way, I like this. It seems like Tatsu's kind of warmed up to Oliver, because when I remember in the flashbacks for episode 6 of this season, Guilty, she said, "My son's off limits." That was partly stemmed from her misplaced hatred of Oliver. So now I think she's warmed up to him. So before you know it, some people, snipers come out of the way shooting at them, and then before you know it, they are running off. Oliver has to run off with Akio in his hand. Akio behind him, and it's like his parents, particularly Tatsu, are crying that he has to leave them. So, this was a good episode. Very huge game-changing episode. I'll have to give it a 9.8 or probably 9.9 out of 10. I don't know. I should be giving it a 10 or 11, but something's keeping me from doing that. I'll have to give it a 9.8. 9.8, 9.9 out of 10. I think I'll stick with a 9.8. So, good, great episode. Alright, I can't, it makes me very, very angry that I have to wait till March 18th for the next episode to come in. Alright, that's all for this video.